Hello, Sharron.
Hello, Adam.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
After the long weekend.
Long weekend. We can say that.
Yeah, are we allowed to say that? we can say that. This is our podcast. We can say whatever we want to say. How you feeling?
Easter.
Rested?
Yeah, always rested.
Yeah.
Actually, no, never rested.
Yeah, good. That's how we like to keep it.
Yeah, what about you?
Completely not rested. Had a bit of a disaster, but it's all good. We're back. We got out of Melbourne, which was fantastic, but we're back in the grind now. So yeah, that's us.
Here we are.
Ready to rock. What's happening today, Sharon?
Well, we're going to touch on something that we talk about a lot with our clients, and that's the whole concept around revenue versus profit. What's better for your business? And perhaps why revenue isn't always the goal, but we're going to unpack that today.
Good. It sounds interesting.
Does it?
Yeah.
Let's get into it then.
Sure.
But we're also going to introduce a new segment today.
Hey.
Yeah.
Juno podcast. It's coming forward.
Yeah. We've got some structure in our podcast.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, bit of framework.
Wow, that's it's interesting for us.
New segment called Take It or Leave It.
Oof, strong.
Yeah.
So talk to me. What's the segment? What are we doing here?
Well, I think I'm going to preface it by saying there's always two opinions.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's not a right or a wrong. So this segment is about a little bit of a debate around the topic that we're talking about and whether you and I, take it or leave it.
I feel like I'm already foreseeing this because I feel like I already know our opinions on this. So.
Okay, let's throw it out.
So revenue should always be the number one priority in the business.
I say leave it.
And I say take it. So here we go.
Why do you say take it?
So I think I'm gonna preface my take it because inevitably you have to build a business to a certain size in order.
So you're prefacing it already.
No, hang on. It's just relax with your debating. You have to build it to a size, and I think people get confused about trying to make money on the journey as opposed to growing a business and increasing the revenue and then coming back and looking at the profitability and how to drive that through the mechanics. And I go, it's more like it's the way in which you need to think about it is client and revenue from client and client volume. I categorize them all into one sort of bundle to say, focus on client acquisition and revenue, and make sure you're obviously not losing money, but then come back once you've got the volume to be able to come back and either increase prices, add additional services or offerings in order to increase the revenue, increase the profitability per client, which is one of the metrics that we look at as well.
So are you saying then that you can't have both? Are you saying that you can't focus on the profitability at the same time as you focus on generating revenue to begin with?
So I think it's probably more a conceptual thing for me, and I'm and you know me well enough, I am focused on growth. And it's not at all costs because there are costs associated with that, but I would always err on the side of the growth and the revenue as opposed to looking at the profitability. And that's because it's in my nature to do that. And I feel lucky because, I have a business partner like you that can then look at the other side, but I'm always going to push that and I'm at the forefront of that. So I am pushing that. And I think there's businesses these days that focus too much on trying to make money on the journey where in my view, it's about you do everything you can to grow the business, client acquisition, and get that revenue up to then have the ability to come back after you've got to a certain size and then focus on making the business profitable. Otherwise, what I've seen, and we can talk about some case studies, is the focus is in the wrong spot from my point of view. It needs to be focused on growth, revenue, and client acquisition as opposed to how you're going to eke profit out of each client or cost cutting or X or Y or Z. I think if I was to answer the question, I would say it is a focus on that for the first part of the journey to then come back to after you've grown the business to a certain size to then focus on the profitability.
Yeah, because I guess I would say that too often businesses never come back. And so there's this drive to get that revenue without truly understanding. And you've got a smirk on your face because you're like, and then they never come back. And so that constant drive for the top line, and they see that top line, they actually never look beyond that. And they then create a business that's profitless volume. And you go, what's the point of profitless volume?
I think that, I also have seen businesses like that, but I go, I would say some of those businesses are slightly more ego-driven because of, that they look at the revenue figure, and the same can be said about the people number, right? I've got 400 people in my team. Well, that's all well and good, but if you're losing money, it doesn't really make sense. There is a point though, right? And I probably look at this more for us and some of the clients that we work with as to go, it's the priority. The priority I see at the start always have to. I caught up with a friend of mine a couple of days ago, and they talked about how they took, they were focusing on trying to make money, and what happened is they didn't actually focus on finding new clients to create that revenue, so they didn't have any, tasks associated with that. And what ended up happening is that they focused on making money with the clients, but they churned clients more than they actually got clients, which actually put them in the worst position. So, this is an interesting question around. I think it's at the right time. I think it's at the start of a business's journey, and I think that can get to, a relatively large size focusing on that. I will say though, there comes a time where you need to then go back and look and then focus on the profitability. You can't focus on revenue the whole time, but I think that particularly with a lot of businesses that we work with, it is about the focus needs to be on that at the start of the journey.
So when we say revenue versus profit, what are we chasing? When we talked at the start of this segment, we go take it or leave it.
I'm taking revenue.
Right.
Yeah, and then I'm coming back and then going to get the profit because I've got the volume.
Right. So when we talk about the chase for revenue, I go, at what point in time does a business then go, how do I understand where am I making my money, or perhaps where am I not making my money?
The old classic is I've got cash in the bank, right? So I'm making money, and we both know that how so untrue that can be on occasion. I think it's about. This sort of comes back to other stuff that we've sort of talked about previously. It's about having the right plan. It's about looking at the data along the journey, but the focus is on the revenue. So it's not to say that we just blindly go after client acquisition and try to get revenue, right? It's about having a structured process to say we are driving to this point, and at this point, when we hit this target, we will then focus on these particular things. So, if we go back to the old A to F, it's really part of creating a structured growth pathway that has points at which you meet to make sure that we're growing and that we're paying the wages and we've got enough money in the bank. But the focus is on the revenue to start with, or that's what I feel. So I suppose each business will have its different, at what point do you go back and then look at the business and then create, different or change things in order to increase that profitability. Our business, businesses that we work with, it's all different. So it would depend on, how big and, how many staff and what the cost of staff is and what what type of clients you're looking at, how much they're worth, is there upsell features. There's a whole bunch of things that need to be considered in that. But I go, the focus, particularly at the start, is to get that, but not to be blindly chasing revenue.
So is a part of that actually then going, in terms of the types of clients that you're chasing, does that then come into come into the picture where you go, okay, to your point, we're not blindly going to chase the revenue. We're actually going to do that with some framework around the types of clients that we're chasing.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we're talking about this before. You know, a client, professional services firm, winning $100,000 a year client, right? That is that could be seen as, you know, revenue and not making any money or whatever. But
You'd take it though. I mean, in your words, that's like, yep, we're taking it because it's about revenue.
Correct, right? But I would also look afterwards to make sure as we're driving through that the data points are suggesting that we're not losing money and that was the right type of client because there's a learning experience from that, right? So if I was looking at that, as I was taking the client, I'd 100% take the client, right? But then I would look at afterwards to go, is that the type of client that we want to continue chasing? So when we talk about blindly chasing revenue, it's not about this catch-all that fundamentally we get every client of every size and of every nature and all this kind of stuff. There is and we've got it as well, there is a client acquisition strategy for us that says this is the type of client we look for. This is what it looks like because we know that fits our model for us to deliver the value at this point in time. Now that may change, but it's going to change on the data that we've collected across the journey to go. And going back to this sort of scenario, the professional services firm that we work with, it's a $100,000 client. We've taken it. We've done an okay job with it, but inevitably we've lost money on it because we don't have the people to service that particular style of client. Whereas a $10,000 a year client, get 10 of them, all of a sudden that's a much better thing. But the questions that I would be asking back would be how, if we did, what type of people do we need in order to service that $100,000 client? Is that in our growth pathway? Do we need to recruit different people? Because that's that could be an easier client to win. So yes, I would definitely take the client, but I wouldn't take it blindly. I would look at it. I would look at the outcome of that and whether that was the style of client that needed to fit into the client acquisition strategy.
So, yeah, I guess when I look at that, I go, you've invariably got a profit issue as a result of taking on a client that actually didn't fit what an ideal mix would be. So whilst the revenue was great to generate, at what cost though? So is that a reflective piece?
I would say it's a reflective piece. So maybe I'll give a different example. Client comes along, biggest client you've ever had, right? And you go, well, I'm not quite sure whether we can service it. I'm not quite sure whether we can do this, or I'm not really going to try to win it. That does happen. It happens a lot. And I would say try to win that client, right? Give the value and the service that you've sold to them and use that as a case study to look at what happened afterwards. Because, I mean, the irony is that, where we're sitting sort of today, which is around, I don't want to take that, million and a half because it's going to put stress on it or it's going to put this or it's going to put that on it. I go take it and make it happen because that could be an unlocking of a new type of client, a new service, a new this and new that. And then once you've done one, then you can do more of them, but then tweak the profitability on that.
Does it take a maturity level, though, to go, I can do that safely in my business without destroying it? Because also I've seen on the flip side of that, clients take on that massive big project and it can undo them.
Correct. I think it does take a maturity. It takes a maturity of structure as well. Like, probably going a bit off topic here, but if you have really great foundations in your business, and you've got a great business cadence, you're having the right meetings, everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. When you put something that's somewhat out of the ordinary into the business survives and it delivers the outcome. Does it do it perfectly? Maybe or maybe not. So I would say on the circumstances where a business takes on let's call it a large client, and that impacts the business to such a point that, it's really detrimental, I would say that business doesn't have strong enough foundations, and that would be one of its problems in driving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that hindsight's a wonderful thing, and we talk about that.
Correct.
But hindsight, you've got to be able to then have that continuity to go forward, and that you haven't actually stuffed it all up in the process, right? Because I would also say there is a point where you go, you have to fix it now before it becomes too big of a problem. So we're chasing the revenue at any cost. Well, not at any cost, but if we don't reflect and go, in hindsight,
Correct.
could have I done that differently?
Correct.
And we don't do that, then perhaps you get too many problems that you can never fix.
Totally agree. And I think that, this conversation is depicting of our personalities and the way in which that we look at business,
100%.
right? And you go, this is why there always needs to be a person like me to push a business off the ground. Always. I've never seen, I mean, a lot of people probably have comments of the type of person I am, but there needs to be a pusher, a dreamer, a visionary, and somebody, and we've said this before, somebody to pull a business through, right? So I go, and we've talked openly about this, is that I need, or my personality needs a type of person like you to sit there with me, next to me, to go push, 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 look, push, 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 look. And that's a really, really important thing. And single business owners, they need to surround themselves with really, really great people. And ironically, we've talked about this before, or when you have a business partner like we do, you can't be the same person. And I look at us and say, I feel lucky and privileged to work with you, but the way in which that we look at business and we drive growth and all those kind of things are different, but we have the relationship to be able to have those conversations to go, hey, Adam, that was a fucking stupid idea. Okay, well.
I don't think I've ever said that.
Probably. I think you've said it under your breath.
Oh, come on. I wouldn't say it under my breath, I'll tell you.
But you know what I mean? And that sort of then, it brings back to go, I have the privilege to chase the revenue because you're there.
Yeah, so what happens when that's not every partnership, right?
Correct.
So we have a lot of clients that are doing it on their own, and probably that's why we're there as well, because we offer that view as well.
Correct.
Because I do feel that without, and again, we've seen this, without that hindsight, or whether you call it that, I'm just going to drag you back a little bit. I'm not here to stop you, but I am here to drag you back to go, let's just have a look at whether this growth is in fact profitable for the long-term business, and whether that model works, or else chasing growth and never doing that can be detrimental.
And I totally agree with that, but I go that is a structured business plan. That is a structured cadence. It's a structured, dashboard, however you want to determine that, looking at the finances. There's always that type of scenario, but I think, and it's too, chasing the revenue, it is somewhat uncomfortable to do that for a lot of people, to go after it, right? Because chasing revenue is client acquisition. I mean, different sizes of clients, but that's kind of what it is. And too many people and too many businesses, they fall back and go, oh, I'm gonna work on the nuances of the profitability and the this and the that, because that's what it needs to be. Again, we go back and you go, for the people who aren't lucky like us with a business relationship with two very different people driving the same sort of fundamental business, they need to either, find somebody like us, or they need to surround themselves with staff members that fundamentally they have a great relationship with, but have a very different skill set to what they have, and put them around themselves in order to help drive that business, so that they don't, I would say, blindly chase revenue, that they have this sort of the point. And, we have a quarterly, like for us, we have a quarterly partner update. We go over the figures, we go over what's working, what's not working. That in some aspects is making sure that we're not growing for the sake of growing, but fundamentally we're doing that. But that is all in hindsight. So we've had the growth, and then we've gone back to look at what did that mean for us as a business, and does that then go back to our overarching, A to F? Does that achieve our F, or is that getting us closer to the F? And sometimes we have to change, and we've had to change different bits and pieces along that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think for business owners, it's about finding the right time to have that conversation, whether it be with themselves, with businesses like us, or with those people that they surround themselves, to know when it's the right time to go, I need to almost sort of pause, which, I mean, the world doesn't work like that. We never get a chance to pause, but to say, I'm just going to stop or breathe for a second just to make sure that that growth is in fact going to be sustainable from a profitability point of view.
Yeah.
And knowing when that trigger is in your cycle or your maturity level as a business, to know when to do that. And I mean, even if, as I sit here now and I go, wouldn't it be great if we could say, this is the trigger in every business that you should do that? Now, it's not as easy as that, but is there something that triggers a business that goes, that's the time that you should be a bit more reflective?
I think it's, unfortunately, it's always a something like, we lost a huge client and we went back and we realized that we didn't make any money, or, we started time tracking. We'd never done that before, and then we realized we're over-servicing all our clients. There's all these, I would say it's an event. That was the word I was looking for. There's always an event that triggers that then triggers you to go in and start digging around a little bit.
Yeah.
But it takes an event. And again, that's a hindsight thing, so it's a bit tricky. I think, good
business. It's a reactory piece rather than I'm going to be proactive about this.
It is, but good business practice, and we like to think that we do pretty well in that, good business practice is locking in time to look at the business, to look at how you are tracking towards achieving your goals. And a financial goal is a must, right? And a revenue goal, from my perspective, is a must. There is a target that you have to achieve, and that creates, again, client acquisition in order to achieve that target. But that has to be the focus of the business up until the point that you become a large enough business that either the brand itself stands on its own 2 feet, or you have enough money to drive the marketing costs associated with that. Because a lot of the businesses, right, us included, it's driven by the founder. It's driven by that growth of the founder and pushing it forward up until the point that it becomes what I would call and we've used this word before, a mature business, which is a business that has very structured marketing budget, very structured this budget, very structured advertising, very structured PR, but like all that kind of stuff that says we will invest this money to expect this return given our past. It's not just solely on me out there, having, meetings and all that kind of stuff. And until you get to that point, I think that the focus, not blindly, but the focus needs to be on revenue generation. Sharron doesn't agree, but that's okay.
I was going to say, like, if we did phrase it, and it's not, it's not like I'm not going to say that.
No, go.
It's not like I disagree. I think I see too many businesses blindly chasing revenue,
correct,
without understanding the profitability of their business. So I guess it's just finding the right time for that to be considered together rather than one without the other.
Correct. And I don't think this is a easy enough debate to go, it's one or the other. It's a combination. And I keep coming back to the word focus, because I see the same businesses that you see, and I go, I couldn't agree more. But I think also on the flip side, and this is probably less of the businesses that we sort of advise. These are probably people that are, or people that I meet through the whatevers, but they're not focusing on the growth and the revenue, and what that leads them with, it leaves them with nothing, because they've either gone from a solo entrepreneurial, I don't know, whatever the word is these days, but they've gone from an individual that's built a team because they've won enough clients, and then they've gone, shit, I need to make some money. And then they've turned their head and they're focusing, and and so the word focus is probably is the important part for me in this question. That is definitely not to say you blindly chase revenue and give yourself a pat on the back every time you win a client, even though I do, but not blindly. But the reality is that it has to be the focus point, particularly for businesses in the sizes that we are and that we look after. Is if you take your eye off that, it is a struggle, and I mean, again, it's a momentum thing as well, right? Yeah. So once you have momentum, the revenue keeps going and going and going, but that's not to say that you shouldn't have a structured approach to be looking at your finances to make sure that your profitability is not getting to a point that it makes it uncomfortable for you. And in order to do that, you've actually got to define what that is. And so for us, I'm happy to be open about this. We're not running at the profitability that we would want because we're in a growth phase, because we're focusing on generating that revenue. Now, you and I are comfortable with that, but that will change, of course, as we start to scale and as we get our economies of scale and more staff and more clients. And, as that goes, I would still say that we are focusing on the growth and the revenue. We've just got the comfortability to have you to make sure that we don't fall under that. Now, if we did fall under that, that would be a different conversation and a different scenario. But we've got those checkpoints along our our day-to-day, well, it's not actually day-to-day, but our sort of month-to-month type of scenario to make sure that we're facilitating that.
Yeah. So profit, revenue versus profit, take it or leave it.
I'm taking it.
Yeah, I'm leaving it. Okay, we'd love to hear from our audience as to which side that they sat on in terms of taking it or leaving it, revenue over profit.
/ who do you like more, Sharron or Adam?
That is not what we're asking.
That's what we're asking.
No, that's what you're asking.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, so that's it. That's Juno.
Good work.